I've done, I don't know how many interviews with you. This is probably the most comfortable you I've ever seen with with what you're wearing and having a coffee that I can literally see steaming away. I love this.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be honest. I slept in a little bit today because I could. I don't get too many of those days now, so I'm trying to get better at like allowing myself to just take a break when I can.
Oh, I don't blame you. Not to throw it over back at me, but I've had an incredible week covering a lot of events, and I'm ready today to chill. But after this interview, I still got to go mow the lawn. So it's like it it
Oh
it
man,
it it never stops. How was your summer?
amazing. Crazy. Yeah, like we were all over the place this year. I mean, we did a lot of Canadian touring, but we added in a lot of US dates as well, which was really cool. It was a lot travel wise, especially we played quite a bit out west in Canada, so it's a haul trying to get out to like Calgary and Edmonton and stuff. But truly, some of my favorite shows. I mean, Country Thunder in Calgary was probably one of my favorites, and YQM out in New Brunswick. Oh my God, it was insane. Like we were playing at 3 o'clock, and I was just like, I was going into it a little like, why are we playing at 3 o'clock? We're gonna get a Sunday 3 o'clock crowd, you know? And but I also like my whole thing, like when we get ready to go on stage, my band and I we say a prayer, and we've all got a handshake, we've got a system that we do, and whenever I say that prayer, I always tell the guys, I said, we play like we're the headliner. I don't care if there's 5 people or 5,000 people out there. We play like the headliner because that's who we are. And, it helps when you have a great crowd, but for me, I need to put on the same show every time, regardless. But then we walked out and I was like, who are all these people? It was crazy. It was very fulfilling, very heartwarming for me.
I love it. I love it. Didn't you do of course it was all in my liners. A very special show that you opened up for a very special artist also?
Oh
This I
gosh,
do
there's
believe
been.
was at the Budweiser stage, September.
Oh yes, yeah. We got to open for John Party at the Budweiser stage. Sorry, I would like to be honest. I'm blessed with the problem of having been able to open for a lot of special people this year. So yeah,
How was that?
it was awesome. I mean, I that's the venue I grew up going to shows at every summer. So I've spent many a summer nights up on the lawn in the nosebleeds with some friends, and so it was awesome to get to play that venue. I had family and some friends there as well. So yeah, it was a very, very cool, very full circle moment.
Now, before we get into talking about what we're going to talk about, this is just from yesterday. One of the greatest actors and country singers, Chris Christopherson, passing away. I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Oh man, I just this morning I woke up and I saw a few posts on Instagram. I unfortunately my first thought that made me so sad was, man, I never got to meet him. Of course, I know who he is and have been inspired by him, but I never got to meet him. So I think what I'm gonna do actually with my rainy day off after this is I'm gonna hang out and dig into some Christopherson records.
You know, it's funny. I did have a chance to meet him once when I was covering the Grammy Awards, and he was part of a um he was supposed to perform on the show. And just thinking about his music background and then knowing watching growing up all of his movies, you realize, what an incredible talent, and we've lost an incredible talent too. And yeah, you're really gonna enjoy heading back and listening to all that music. But we gotta listen to your music because
Let's do
that's one
it.
of the big reasons why we are talking. I don't want to talk about the actual album yet, but I want to talk about leading into this.
Okay.
Um, because I know you are always in a process when it comes to recording an album. And this one kind of sounded like it was almost like an album you needed to do because if there was ever an inner glow that needed to come out in your music to create this, this was the process you were going through. That's how I feel.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like I don't have to fill in as much backstory because we've known each other for a long time and you've been in my corner a long time, which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, I went through a lot in the last few years, a lot of change and a lot of transformation and a lot of healing. And I would say healing is the key word here. And I think that when you listen to this record, I would say people have asked a lot, is there like an underlying theme? And I would say first, if you really want to know me, listen to this record because it's
Mhm.
extremely autobiographical. Um, but it's also everything that I had to go through to get to the point where I was ready to make this record.
Yeah.
And, and that comes back to the healing aspect. And, I dug into some of my deepest hurt, my deepest hurt, full stop. And um, I went to therapy and I had to make some really big changes with my team. I got dropped from my first record deal. And, at the time when that happened, I actually was really happy. It was what needed to happen. And I knew that it was time. And so it didn't feel like really sad or like a failure to me at the time, even though when you say, yeah, I got dropped from my label, everybody's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, this is a really good thing because I was incredibly grateful to Warner and to my team there. We had many great years together and they were my first champions and we got to a great start. But there was some major changeover in the personnel there when Steve Kane left. That was my first
Yeah.
champion, and Steve was a friend, and I really loved and valued Steve, and we had a great rapport as artist and president. And so when he left, that was kind of the beginning of the end for me. And when I finally got out of the deal, it felt like a clean slate. It felt like I finally had the freedom to do what I wanted to do. And it was like this big weight off my shoulder. And I went and I sat down with my current label, Riser House, which at the time they were just my US partner, and now they're my full label. And I sat down with Jen and we had a long talk and I just said, listen, if we're gonna move forward, here are my goals, here are my dreams, here's what my vision is for my music, here's how I want to do it, and here's what I am and am not willing to sacrifice in order to get to where I'm going.
Someone's-
And I can't and will not compromise on any of it this time. That doesn't mean that I don't want your expertise and your opinion. I want us to be a team. But it was for me, I was challenging myself for the first time in my career. I promised myself that I would not compromise. I would not compromise on the artistry or the vision that I had, regardless of whether or not other people got it while I was doing it, regardless of whether or not they thought it was crazy, or regardless of whether or not they, believed it would work. I promised myself that I would truly follow my gut and make 100% the record that I wanted to make. And that's exactly what I did.
Okay, so let's get to it. What is the name of the new album and why that name?
So the name of the album is Golden Child. And so we also have the song Golden Child, which is the title track. And interestingly enough, I actually had decided to name the record Golden Child before I had written the song Golden Child. And the reason for that, so there's another song on the album. It's the first song on the album. It's called Blood from a Stone. And the very first line of that song that introduces the whole record is I was a golden child. And when you get into that song, it's a very heavy song. It's the most personal, heaviest song on the whole record, and we open with that because that's the root of the hurt, and that is kind of the beginning of the journey. And then we take me through everything I had to go through to heal from that first hurt. And also it speaks to what I went through, as a child, as a teen, young adult, from being a kid, from being the golden child, and how that shaped me into the woman I am today. And there are aspects of it that I'm grateful for. I am very ambitious. I'm very hardworking. I mean, people can say whatever they want about me, but they're not going to say I'm not those two things, you know? And, but also the dark side of that, it was, you know, growing up feeling that my entire value was so tied to my success. And, that if I wasn't successful, I wasn't inherently valuable. Hey, y'all, can we not do this right now, please? Sorry, my dogs are trying to wrestle next to me.
Yeah, that's okay.
And so that's where that title came from, because it just, you know, I went into therapy. That's how I came across that term as I was, you know, in my healing, reading books about what's wrong with me. You know, I came across that term and I was like, that's me. That describes me perfectly. And I realized how deeply rooted that was in me. And so it felt like the perfect title for a record that is truly about my life and everything I've been through up till now.
I'm just curious. The album, does it have any lyrics or songs about your tattoo?
Um,
And I'm talking about the tattoo that we talked about, the one where it's $5 and
oh,
$2.
$2.83.
That's the one.
So, you know, I actually started writing a song about that, and we haven't finished it. And it might be a song that takes a minute to finish because it's so special and it's such a big part of my story. So it's in the works. I'll say that,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
not on
Well,
the record.
okay. We'll save that for later on. The video, though, where was that recorded? Because it looks amazing.
For Golden Child, we were out
Yeah.
in California actually. We had, oh my gosh, probably the craziest week of my whole summer. You know, we played Watershed, where I got to sing Wait in the Truck with Hardy, which was insane. And then we flew straight to California. We went out to Malibu to visit with the our investor, Matt Swanson. He's our investor at Riser House. And and we filmed a bunch of stuff. We filmed videos for a few things on the record, and we filmed Golden Child, and we were doing all these meetings. And it was like all of this, and then at the end of that weekend, we were out with Luke Bryan playing three like huge shows in California. I mean, we played the LA Forum for the first time. And what's so cool about Luke and his tour, he rotates the openers every night. So each opener gets to play each slot. So the very first night we played in San Diego, and we were direct support for freaking Luke Bryan. It was insane. Three of my favorite shows of the whole year, especially, you know, still being the new kid on the US side of things. You know, I have to, it's weird because it's like I can go to Canada, I can play for these huge crowds and they know my songs and they're my people and I feel so loved. And then I come and play in the US and nobody knows who I am. And so I never really know what I'm walking into. And it's quite a roller coaster trying to like adjust my expectations and protect my ego. Honestly, every time I have to feel like, okay, don't forget you're starting over here. But that was such a surprise. I mean, Luke's crowd, I mean, from when we were direct support to even when we were the first of four, we had amazing crowds. And so I think that speaks volumes about Luke Bryan and his fans and the, you know, the kind of environment that he's created. But anyway, yeah, the whole crazy weekend, we filmed the Golden Child video all in all of these gorgeous places around California. It was crazy. There was one point where we were filming where I'm like up, you know, where I'm on that cliff and they had the
Yes.
drone and everything. And honestly, a lot of people might have seen my post about it. That was a really tough day because Mitchell had called me and our dog Ducky was not doing well and he unfortunately had to put her down that day. And I was devastated because I mean, even if I had immediately left and gone straight to the airport and tried to fly home, like I wouldn't have made it home in time. I felt horrible that I wasn't there for Mitchell or to say goodbye to her. So I was really struggling emotionally that day, but we had to get this work done. Like we had to get it done. And yeah, it was intense. It was very, very emotional because there were so many good things happening, things that I've been looking forward to, things that I was excited about, things that I worked so long for. And then this happened and we lost our ducky girl, and it was really hard to try and feel everything I was feeling all at once. But thankfully, and I was so worried because I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I need to do it right, because I don't want to, we got to make this video right. This is going to be the single. This is we're at radio right now in the US with Golden Child, and so I was like, this is going to be the video that everybody watches. Like, you have to get it right. So that was probably one of the most challenging days of my career, for sure.
What advice can you give anybody out there who's going through their golden child journey?
You know, I would say that you have to get really comfortable with being by yourself, and in every sense of the word. I mean, like, you have to be comfortable with being the only one who gets what you're doing at any given point.
Yes.
You have to be comfortable with trusting your own gut when you think something is great. If other people aren't reacting the way that you hope out of the gate, you have to understand that that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Sometimes people just don't know how to respond to something that they just don't understand yet, or they don't see the bigger picture. They don't see all of the transformation that you've gone through. They don't see all the healing that you've done, and so they are still trying to associate this new thing with this old version of you that they don't know yet.
Yes.
And so you just have to keep pushing. You have to just keep showing up for yourself and unapologetically doing what your gut is telling you to do. And honestly, for me, it was an exercise in not only self-love and self-respect, but also an exercise in my faith. Because on the days where I didn't feel like I had it in me to keep doing what I needed to do, I said, you know what, God, I'm going to give this to you. I'm trusting in you today. The anxiety is through the roof. I don't want to feel like this anymore, because I've spent so much of my career feeling like shit, honestly, like feeling like crap about myself, and worrying and stressing about things that were largely out of my control. Hey, enough. Sorry. And I finally got to a place. I'm like, man, I have a finite amount of energy and time on this earth. Um, and I want to spend it wisely. I'm going to put my energy into positive things and good things and creating, and just trying to be better as a writer and as a musician, instead of putting my energy into worrying about what I don't have, or what's out of my control, or what other artists are doing. And not going to I'm not going to just seek out that external validation so much. I'm not going to require that external validation to decide that something is good and worth putting out into the world.
As we slowly wrap this up, and as we do this interview, we are slowly going into October, which means it's the Halloween season. So, gotta
Mhm.
ask you, growing up, what was your favorite Halloween costume and why?
I think probably the Little Mermaid, because if I recall correctly, I was the Little Mermaid multiple times.
Wait a second.
Hmm.
Miss Tough Person, and I mean tough. I've always said that if there was an apocalypse ever happened, I want to be around you because I know I'd be able to survive because you know how to live out there. And you're trying to tell me you were the Little Mermaid?
Well, see, here's the thing that people need to understand about me, Rudy, and I'm glad you brought this up, because this is a great question to explain something about where I'm at now. Yes, I am, the dipping, whiskey drinking, gun shooting, hunting, fishing, tough girl for sure. But I also am still a woman. I'm also still a little girl who loved Disney, who wanted to be a mermaid, who used to go out into the woods and pretend that, there were fairies out there, and had an imagination. And, for me, becoming the tough girl, I mean, listen, I am tough. There's no doubt that that is
Yes.
part of who I am at my core. But a lot of the toughness was the defense mechanism that I built around myself a long time ago to protect myself, because I was deeply hurt and damaged by a lot of people that were supposed to protect me. And so I figured out, I'm like, well, if I just put out this armor, this sort of tough exterior, then people won't mess with me as much. I'll just let them know that they can't get to me. But that's just part of who I am, and I think that people will see a different side of me as well on this record, that there is a very sensitive and like emotional and caring person who's actually kind of tired of having to be tough all the time. Because now at
Amen.
this point, I don't want to wear the armor as much because I also blocked out a lot of good things and a lot of love from real genuine people that I wasn't ready to trust because of my own like past traumas. But I've healed those things now. I've figured them out. I've dealt with them. I've worked through them and I put them up on a shelf where they can stay. But um but now, I'm experiencing a different side of myself in a different part of life where I actually really enjoy not having to be so tough and just be the truly loving and kind person that I am.
Then let me add to that with Halloween. What was your favorite Halloween candy?
Ooh. Mm.
Because there's always the one we go after first, and then they're the ones that are always left towards the end
Yeah.
because, hey, that's all we had left.
I I definitely remember going through a phase of loving like Tootsie Rolls and Tootsie Pops.
Yeah.
Because also it was especially the Tootsie Pops because it was like it lasted like where so and I used to have this is so funny but I mean I love food. I'm such a like foodie and I think I always have been. And so it's like when you can get something delicious that lasts, it's like you don't have to be sad that it's over.
Oh my God, love it. Tour happening in the rest of 2024 as we go into fall and winter, and what's going on with 2025?
Yeah. So, I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't even looked at 2025 yet because I'm just trying to get through this year. I know that we're definitely going to be continuing through, I mean, out through the rest of 2024. We've got a lot of radio shows here in the US as we continue to get those ads. We're off to an amazing start. We've been in the top 5 most added almost every week. So I'm just really excited about that. So we're going to be visiting a lot of new places in the US that I've never been before, which is awesome. And we've got some dates. We're touring with Flatland Cavalry a little bit this year. We're
Oh,
going to be out
nice.
in Vegas with them this coming weekend. And then we get to go down to Lubbock, Texas, which is like hometown show for them. So I'm extremely excited about that. They've already informed me that they're going to be taking me to their like favorite hometown dive bar. So I know that's going to be a wild night for sure. Um, and yeah, just yeah, I'm on the road pretty steady. And then when the record comes out, we're also doing our charity event again this year. We're looking to make it even bigger and better every single year. So we're going to be raising money for survivors of domestic violence. Um, and I'm in the process of putting together an incredible lineup right now. So that's going to be really fun and looking forward to just making it bigger every year. My main end goal is to eventually have my own foundation and maybe even be able to open up some women's shelters at some point as well. So that's my big dream that I'm manifesting. So that's what you're helping to build for anybody that wants to help support. Um, and then, yeah, that pretty much fills up the rest of the year.
Amen to everything that you've said. I'm going to let you go so you can go back and relax. I'm so glad that we had a chance to talk. Just sad
Yeah.
that I had to do it on your day off because you should have
Oh
been
my
able
gosh.
to chill.
It's great because I honestly, it was right when I was getting ready to get up. So all you've done is keep me company while I have my morning coffee. So it worked out great.
Thank you so much for allowing me to follow you on your journey and being able to
Yeah.
chronicle it on my platforms. And I am, like I said, so happy for you that you have been taking these steps and sharing it with us through your music. There's always big love and respect for you from day one and always in the future.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.